Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of contemplative silence, please, for our great country, its people, and those serving it around the world. Thank you. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, please the roll.
Majority Leader Borgia.
Here.
Minority Leader Testa.
Here.
Mr. Boykin. Here. Mr. Burrows. Here. Mr. Gelfarb. Here. Mr. Harcum.
Here.
Mr. Jenkins.
Here.
Mr. Mazzano. Here. Ms. Marcotte. Here. Ms. Parker.
Here.
Ms. Perez.
Here.
Ms. Shimsky.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Spreckman. Ms. Williams. Here. Mr. Williams. Here. Mr. Chairman.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Excellent. At this point, motion on consent. Majority Leader Borgia.
Yes, I would like to move the consent agenda with the following changes. On page 6, item number 8, we would like that also to be referred to the Committee of Federal, State, what is that, Advocacy. On page number 9, item 26, also referred to the FSA Committee. And with those changes, I'd move the consent agenda.
Mr. Testa.
We concur.
And Mr. Mazzano. With no objections and consent agenda moved. At this point, minutes approval. Again, Legislator Borgia, Majority Leader.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to move the minutes of the Monday, February 24th, 2014, 7 p.m. meeting.
Excellent. Mr. Testa. Mr. Marzano. Any objections? Minutes are approved. And Madam Clerk, if you could please read the rules for public comment at this time.
Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. I'll call the names of the speakers and ask that you please come down the aisle to my left. Steve Vasco, Michael Vishy, Susan Totten, Deirdre Curran. The first speaker is Steve Vasco.
Before you hit the 3 minutes, I need to acknowledge that I am the chairperson for the Rye Playland Advisory Committee, but I'm not here speaking on behalf of that committee, nor in any official capacity. While considering the submitted PIP, I ask that the board also consider the 2 proposals from Standard and Central Amusements. Both plans are less disruptive and appear to have substantially better finances. Considering the SPI plan without the perspective that these other proposals doesn't best serve the citizens of Westchester, it should be acknowledged that the financial difficulties have been greatly exaggerated. Playland's finances have not been treated the same as other parks and facilities. If you treat them the same, it's covered most of its true operating costs or even made a small profit each year. That's pretty remarkable when you consider how little investment has been done recently. It also heavily supports the idea that a competent amusement park operator could easily invest in Playland and deliver a vibrant and financially solid park. The design of Playland wasn't an accident. It incorporated buffer zones along its entire length and entrance to minimize the noise surrounding the neighborhood. The proposed massive field zone building shatters that buffer zone and puts it right in people's backyards. More importantly, the plan also violates long-standing legal precedent protecting municipal parks in New York State. The county executive's office has stated that parkland alienation process doesn't apply as the agreement is not a lease. The use of semantics to skirt the alienation process should not be tolerated. I'm calling on the board and Executive Astorina's office to follow the New York State parkland alienation process for any proposal that includes new for-profit buildings in the park. There's constant pressure on local state governments to give up public park space when government budgets are so tight, but New York State law is very clear. The alienation procedure must be followed, specifically calls out the following cases. The conveyance, sale, or lease of municipal parkland or recreational facilities, especially one to a private profit-making concern, even though the resources may continue to be used for public park and recreation purposes. It's right out of the New York State Parks Handbook. The Westchester Children's Museum went through the alienation process, even though the museum is using an existing empty building, and it obviously applies for this case. It would be irresponsible to approve any plan that avoids these guidelines and legal precedent, as it means it's much more likely that the proposal will be mired in legal quagmire. Finally, many of you may have made protecting the environment centerpieces of your public service. It's hard for me to see how a 95,000 square foot building in a flood zone, a few hundred feet from a residential neighborhood, right next to a nature preserve, can be seen as anything but an environmental disaster. I urge all of you to look at the 3 proposals on the table and vote against the PIP. Protect Playland, protect the Rye neighborhood, and above all, please protect our parks and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Vishy.
Well, I'm here again, and as you know, I'm opposed to the Sustainable Playland Improvement Plan. I have previously spoken about environmental concerns, quality of life issues, and alienation processes. The first thing I'd like to address tonight are engineering concerns that need to be presented to the county engineers for review. As I am not an engineer, what I've handed you are sketches from an engineer, and as it stands, the design of flood level elevation of the field house is at 10 feet. At this level, critical uplift force of 95,000 square foot building in a flood zone would be greater than 30,000 tons of force. First question, what is the thickness planned for the cement floor slab? How many anchors would be needed to hold the floor down? What is the force capacity of each anchor? How will the slab and walls be sealed to provide flood proof to 10 feet? And are critical site permeability tests being done to confirm soil integrity given that there's a 4-foot water table? Right now, FEMA regulations state floodproofing for non-residential buildings above 3 feet is not appropriate and risky because the upward force can cause the floor and walls to fail and crack. And please keep in mind that New York State has not adopted the 2013 FEMA standards, so these figures could get worse or not. Don't know. I have attached excerpts of the FEMA regulations and calculations from a mechanical and hydraulic engineer for your review. The second point is economic impact. In 2009, a study was done by Economic Associates Incorporated. It found that Playland directly, indirectly, and induced created $27.7 million within all of Westchester. To support that, per residence tax levy was less than 0.5%. $6.46 a year. If more than 40% of the parking lot is eliminated by the field zone, this will reduce attendance and amusement area, causing substantial less revenue for the county. Yes, Playland needs help, but let the experts handle it. Central Amusements and Standard Amusements both submitted plans that did not include a 95,000 square foot albatross. Lastly, the Parks and Labor Committee have scheduled a site visit for the 18th of this month, Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock. Is it? Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock, the 18th. I strongly encourage that you all attend. I'm going to be there. I'd like to show you my neighborhood and what it means to us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Susan Totten.
I greatly appreciate all that you do. I admire you, all 17 of you. I know the SPI plan has become quite involved. I am puzzled. I feel it seems somewhat simple with the right group, committee, etc. Playland must be able to fix it inside the amusement park. Leave the parking lot alone. I say do not add millions of dollars for a huge building and 2 fields to take away half-ish the parking lot, not to mention what would happen to the neighborhoods. There must be something, somehow, somewhere that can be found in other areas for a new sports complex in a happy way. So I am confident that this will be done properly soon.
Thank you so much.
Deirdre Curran.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I did not wear this because it's green. I wore it because it was clean. I'm a dog walker, and it was the only thing I had that didn't have dog drool on it. I didn't realize I missed bagpipes, but it's nice to see everybody getting their Irish on this week. I am 100% Irish. Everybody made good points. I'm going to try and be quick. We had an informational session in Rye about 2 weeks ago, right after the last Board of Legislators meeting, and I don't personally feel a whole lot of questions got answered. Most of mine were not. Steve Vasco talked a little bit about park alienation. One thing he didn't touch on is that if it goes through the park alienation process like the Children's Museum did, the facility can only be used for exactly what it was given permission to be used for. If it doesn't go through the parkland alienation process and they don't make a successful sports complex out of it, what are we going to have there? Just a little food for thought. If you look up Bucksmont, Pennsylvania, Pinnacle Sports has a facility down there that they built under the same premise they want to build this one, that there was a drastic need for it in the community and it was going to fill a huge need. But people sent me tons of videos. They're having gun shows there, dog shows, cat shows, reptile shows, craft fairs. They've turned it into a mini civic center because they couldn't get the sports-related business that they thought they were going to have. If we don't go through parkland alienation and we don't designate this building specifically for sports and only sports, that could happen over at Playland too. There's nothing to stop it. That's one point. One of the questions I asked Sustainable Playland that they didn't answer was exactly why is this integral to their plan financially? And I've been asking them that question for a year. They haven't answered it yet. I want to know what the money flow is. There are a lot of hands in this pot. Pinnacle Sports is going to want money from this. Playland Sports is going to want money from this. Sustainable Playland is going to have to hire a staff. They're going to have to pay people. There's going to be a huge investment they have to pay off, tremendous operating costs. At what point does the county get money? At what point do the taxpayers get relief? And when does money go back to Playland? How does this help Playland? I know how it helps John Abate and Eric DeGraw. I don't understand how it's going to help Playland. One of the last, and one of the, Mike I think also touched on, are they trying to rush this through? It was originally slated for year 3 or 4, and all of a sudden, over the summer, they bumped it up to year 1. I've got to wonder if that doesn't have something to do with trying to beat New York State adopting the new FEMA flood regulations and trying to get it grandfathered in before it's too late for them and they won't be able to build it. Thank you. I really hope all of you, I'm going to be here every week. I know you're all going to be reviewing it, and I'm going to try every week to come with questions for you that I want you to all ask as you're looking at this, going through this process. I appreciate your time. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other cards.
Close the public comment portion of the meeting. At this point, Ms. Borgia, I have 7:30, and our clock is here as well, so public hearing. Clerk could...
So I'm going to move that we open the public hearing. Okay, for the resolution SY020, Tarrytown Force Main Replacement.
And we'll suspend the regular order of...
Excuse me, that we suspend the regular order of business for the purposes of conducting a public hearing. Thank you.
It comes back. Madam Clerk.
Notice of tonight's public hearing was published in the Journal News. I have proof of publication, which is available for inspection in my office. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Mr. Chairman, I have no cards. I apologize. The public hearing is from the Committees on Infrastructure, Budget and Appropriations, and Economic Development and Capital Projects on a proposed bond act authorizing the issuance of $14,600,000 in bonds of the county, which includes $2 million in previously authorized bonds to finance capital project SY020 Tarrytown Force Main Replacement. Mr. Chairman, I have no cards.
And one last view, if anybody would like to comment. Otherwise, at this point, accept the motion to close the public hearing.
I move that the public hearing be closed.
So ordered. Excellent. Clerk, please move and then read the items of unfinished business.
Please note this item was held over from the February 24, 2014 regular meeting. Appears here as an item of unfinished business for action. From the Committee on Appointments, item 6575 is a resolution appointing Lawrence Soul as Westchester County Budget Director for a term to commence on January 1, 2014 and expire on December 31, 2017.
A long roll call, please.
Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Mr. Boykin.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Yes. Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Harkam.
Aye.
Mr. Jenkins.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Approved 17-0. Takes us to standing committees. Item 6582 from the Committee on Safety, Economic Development, and Capital Projects and Budget Appropriations. A bond act authorizing the issuance of $350,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project BPS 22 heavy equipment.
Yes, Ms. Marcotte for...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to move this. This is an item to purchase an emergency response vehicle in the amount of $350,000, and I'll refer it to Legislator Smith.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you. As discussed and approved in the Economic Development Committee, I move this over to Public Safety for further discussion.
Mr. Gelfarb?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Safety Committee thoroughly vetted this item. We were firmly convinced by the presentation that this vehicle is necessary for public safety and for the protection of our citizens. We both want our project, and I heartily approve it.
Excellent. Long roll call, please.
Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Mr. Boykin.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Harkam.
Aye.
Mr. Jenkins.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Marcotte.
Aye.
Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Approved 17-0. Item 6638 from the Committees on Infrastructure, Budget Appropriations, and Economic Development, an act amending the 2014 County Capital Budget Appropriations for Capital Project SYO 20 Tarrytown Force Main Replacement.
Legislator Marcotte?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to move this for the Budget Committee and turn it over to Legislator Smith.
Thank you. And as discussed and thoroughly discussed and approved in the Economic Development Committee, I move this on to the Infrastructure Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The project provides for the replacement of approximately 2 3/4 miles of 30-inch diameter force main from the Tarrytown Pump Station to Route 119 in the village of Tarrytown. The force main conveys raw sewage from the villages of Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow to a gravity sewer that leads to the Yonkers Joint Treatment Plant in the city of Yonkers. Mr. Chairman, this is one of the most important things we're going to be doing all year. Fortunately, those of us in this century, in this country, don't think about what happens to sewage very often. But the people of Tarrytown have had to think about it because this force main has ruptured 8 times in recent years. We knew there were problems because the material used to construct the pipe, and it was a generational thing. It was the kind of thing that people used in the 70s to construct pipes. It turns out it was not a good material, and it started failing fast. We started exploring the possibility of replacing this force main in 2005. In 2011, money was actually appropriated for the purpose of design and construction management. We had a major rupture in August of 2012. There will be a total of 3 pieces of legislation before us tonight. The capital budget amendment, there is an increase of $5,250,000 for this project. Some of that is undoubtedly escalation because of the long time the project has been pending, but also it reflects a change in design. There is a new route selected which has fewer bends in it, will make the pipe function better. Plus, it's more accessible for repairs, which, as we've seen, is kind of a good idea. We also have legislation authorizing negotiation for an intermunicipal agreement with the village of Tarrytown to use a 30-foot by 250-foot tract of land village-owned property. As I said, it's hard to think of too many other things we'll do this year that's more important, and I'm happy to move it on behalf of infrastructure.
Excellent, well said. Legislators, any comment? Mr. Jenkins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On this particular item, just wanted to stand and just clarify one quick item. Madam Chair, Shimsky was correct on Bond Act number 137 in 2011, but this was appropriated by the Board of Legislators for $8.6 million in 2008. So this particular project has been sitting on the deck for a very long time, having the Board of Legislators advance the particular money for the project and waiting for it to come down, and it's certainly necessary work, and I hope everyone supports it. But to clarify once again on the record that this particular item was advanced by the Board of Legislators or adopted in a budget for appropriation back in 2008. Thank you, ma'am.
Excellent. Any other comments or thoughts at this time? Otherwise, Madam Chair, we'll do a long roll call to take this item on.
Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Mr. Boykin.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Mr. Gelfarb.
Aye.
Mr. Harkam.
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Approved 17-0. Item 6639 from the Committees on Infrastructure, Budget and Appropriations, and Economic Development and Capital Projects is a bond act amending Bond Act Number 137, 2011, which authorized the issuance of $2 million in bonds of the county by increasing the amount of bonding to $14,600,000 to finance capital project SYO 20 Tarrytown Force Main Replacement.
Ms. Markup?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As previously discussed, happy to move this.
Yes, Mr. Smith?
As previously discussed.
Ms. Shimsky?
As previously discussed, so moved.
Without objection, we'll take the previous long roll call.
Approved 17-0. Item 6640 from the Committees on Infrastructure, Budget and Appropriations, and Economic Development and Capital Projects is an act authorizing the county to take all steps deemed necessary to replace the Tarrytown Force Main and authority to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with Tarrytown if necessary.
Ms. Markup?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So moved.
As previously discussed.
Ms. Shimsky?
As previously discussed, so moved.
Without objection, again, we'll take the previous long roll call.
Approved 17-0. Item 6692 from the Committees on Public Safety, Economic Development and Capital Projects, and Budget and Appropriations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of $250,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project BIT 23, video surveillance security upgrade.
Ms. Markup?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to move this for the Budget Committee and turn it over to Legislator Smith.
Smith?
As discussed and approved in the Economic Development Committee, I pass on to Infrastructure.
And we actually have a public safety.
I'm sorry, Public
No
Safety.
problem. Mr. Gelfarb, just testing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Public Safety Committee, I recommend passage of this item. We thoroughly vetted this, and we're given an excellent presentation why this upgrade is necessary, both to protect county assets and to, in consequence, protect the county's ability to provide necessary services to residents and taxpayers. As such, so moved.
Excellent. Any legislative comment or thoughts? Otherwise, without objection, we'll take the previous long roll call.
Approved 17-0. Item 6620 from the Committees on Infrastructure, Budget and Appropriations, and Legislation, a resolution setting a public hearing on a local law authorizing the county to consent to the assignment of leases with Jet Systems and West Air to signature. 2, amend the Jet Systems lease to permit assignment to current FBO. 3, amend Signature's lease to allow an early renewal and provide a rent credit. 4, contingent upon the execution by Signature of a stipulation discontinuing actions challenging non-exempt tax status of its leasehold.
Ms. Markup, set the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is to set a public hearing for March 24th at 7:30.
Okay, excellent. And Ms. Shimsky, concur?
I concur.
And Ms. Parker? Ms. Perez, excuse me. Perez?
I concur. Thank you.
Excellent. And we'll take the previous long roll call. No objection?
Approved 17-0. Item 6727 from the Committees on Labor, Parks, Planning and Housing, and Budget and Appropriations, an act authorizing the county to submit an urban county grant application under the Federal Community Development Block Grant, Emergency Shelter Grant, and Home Programs.
And Ms. Markon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As stated, this was discussed in a joint committee meeting this morning. I'm happy to move this for budget, and Legislator Harcum, I believe, is going to tell you what you're voting on.
Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
That was a great
Chairwoman.
lead-in, was it not, Mr. Harcum? One of your best lead-ins ever.
Thank you. The county administers a 36 municipality urban county consortium, which comprises CDBG, home funds, and what used to be the Emergency Shelter Grant Program, which is now called Emergency Solutions. This is the last year, the fourth year of the cycle. Was originally a 3-year cycle. HUD allowed us to extend to 4. This is the last year of the cycle, $5 million. As many people know, the county's previous CDBG allocation has been frozen because of the ongoing stalemate with HUD. We had a lot of discussion of that in the committee, and without getting into who's right and who's wrong on the floor, if we don't pass this tonight, we have no chance of getting that money if the stalemate is ever broken. So this is a prudent thing to do on behalf of our municipalities. We've done this every year. This money goes for important projects, important affordable housing, important not-for-profits to help folks who are down on their luck. So we need to get this passed, and more importantly, without casting aspersions on either side, we need all the parties involved in the dispute, both HUD, the Justice Department, and the administration, to roll up their sleeves, to negotiate in good faith, because the only losers have been the people of Westchester. This is vital money for our communities, and we hope calmer minds on both sides will come to bear, and we can move forward with this. So moved.
Excellent. Any legislative comment or thought on the matter before us at this time? Otherwise, let's do a long roll call on something this important.
Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Boykin.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Mr. Gelfarb.
Aye.
Mr. Harcum.
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Marcotte.
Aye.
Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Approved 17-0. Motions, resolutions, call of the districts.
We, unfortunately, in our legislative family, lost two of our members, lost very important people to them. First and foremost, Sybil Williams, the fine mother of Legislator Williams from Mount Vernon, our colleague. And I'd ask certainly all legislators to join on to memorial resolution. And Marvin Schultz, the father-in-law of Gary Friedman. And perhaps legislators want to join on to that as well. Additions at this time, or comments or thoughts?
Yeah.
Mr. Gelfarb?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that Congregation KTI of Portchester, the congregation that I belong to, a synagogue, lost its former president a few days ago, Ms. Janet Heiser. She is also the wife of Rybrook trustee David Heiser. She was a valued member of the community, served with distinction as president of KTI, real leader in the community over the many years, and we'll miss her.
Excellent. Ms. Spreckman?
What the Gmail and Ricky Telly.
Mr. Jenkins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two things. Certainly, I would like to join Mr. Gelfarb with Janet Heiser, because I think that is something important, and maybe all of us would like to do that as well, since Mr. Gelfarb took the time to mention the great work that she's done. Two things. One is I wanted to congratulate you, Mr. Chairman, and the leadership team on what opportunity with Larry Soul. And while we didn't have a chance to comment on it, I just think it just breezed by pretty fast right to a vote without having a chance to comment. I did not want to pass this opportunity because for several years we were trying to get the administration to do something that, quite frankly, we thought legally should be done, which was to add the Board of Legislators' comments as part of the budget submission that was approved. So the leadership team, you, Mr. Chairman, congratulations for getting that done. I wish I'd had the opportunity to say that during the vote for Larry Soul, but it just went by too quick. Second, I wanted to also thank the leadership team in making sure the modifications, Mr. Chairman, were done for the memorial resolutions that we're going through now. That allows for that process to have the memorial resolutions submitted to the clerk of the board on time for the stated meeting for most of us to be able to do that by 1:30 in the afternoon. I would request respectfully, Mr. Chairman, that we also consider that for legislative items as well, for communications. Specifically, I know that in this particular case, we had the scenario that happened with the Mount Vernon and Mayapack basketball teams at the county center, and that particular thing happened after 1:30 on Wednesday or after the agenda closed, to be able to move forward and bring that information to the board so it can go through its proper committee channels, not something that would be voted on the floor. Hopefully that consideration will be done as well. I know all of us were concerned and disheartened about what happened. There's none of us here that support any parts of someone's statements, some of the ugly things that were said in social media. I know that that's part of what we would talk about in cyberbullying. But Mr. Chairman, if you and leadership can consider that as well, it'd be appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We have Ms. Shimsky and Mr. Marzano.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We didn't get the memo until after 1:30 today, so I have a short list of names, and I'll give you the spellings in writing. John Jack Gaffney, Osborne Noe Gardner Jr., Mary Willard, Constance Porter, Harriet White, and Ronald Pfeiffer, P-E-I-F-E-R.
Thank you. Mr. Marzano.
Just want to let my colleagues know tonight when you get home, next 10, 15, 20 minutes, there's a big sporting event affecting the great city of New Rochelle. Our excellent college, Iona College, as a matter of fact, the school that graduated Ken Jenkins. Iona College has a basketball game tonight against Manhattan College. The winner goes to the NCAA tournament. So Iona is one game away from going to the big dance. I hope you'll all go home, look at ESPN2, and root for Iona College. Thank you.
And most appropriate on Irish Heritage Night. For sure. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are just two matters I wanted to mention tonight. First of all, I didn't get a chance last week because of the circumstances with the passing of my mother to comment either publicly on the situation concerning the Mount Vernon High School and the Mayapack young people. And I just wanted to, for the record, say that, to put on the record that racial intolerance and racial slurs are really deplorable, and they're not really acceptable anywhere. It should not ought to be not acceptable anywhere in this country. And I know that most of our residents here in Westchester do find comments like that deplorable. The young people who were involved with those incidents, there should be an investigation and appropriate action should be taken. But I want to make sure that in the midst of all of this negativity, that we do not tarnish the image of all of the great young people who participate in high school sports throughout this county of all races. I was fortunate that my daughter actually ran track and field for Mount Vernon High School, and she went all over this county because I was with her. And there's great camaraderie and great sportsmanship among many of the students of all the schools. I think that it's unfortunate that this incident had become so ugly that I'm conscious that many of the students who would not be making statements like that would feel bad about it. And I just think that we have to do what we can as adults and as elected officials to facilitate greater relationships, particularly among the young people who are the next generation we're going to be long gone, and they're going to be running things, running the county and running the world. And it's important for us to understand, for us to, as a society, try to facilitate our young people so they understand and can appreciate the rich diversity of this county. And I'm going to take a step to do that. One of the things I have my office planning is, and I will speak to Coach Semino, is to probably to bring together students from the basketball team of Mount Vernon as well as Mayo Pac, including the students who were involved, to watch a film that actually about diversity so that we can build further relationships rather than having these negativity more or less destroy the element of what this county is about and ought to be about. I want to also mention that I was talking to Coach Semino earlier, and a lot of students from all over this county participate together. And if you go to watch the basketball practices, there's Eastchester students, there's students from Scarsdale, there's students from all the way up from Mayo Pac, actually, who come down and run in the Boys and Girls Club in Mount Vernon, and from Pelham, who participate in, I go by, I see it. And so it is difficult when you hear such negativity. I didn't have a chance to comment last week, but I think that while we, as one legislator, I say this, while we stand firm in opposition to what has occurred, we also have to stand firm for those students who are not participating in those kinds of negativity so that they are not tarnished, because that would be an injustice if we were to allow that to happen. Second thing I want to do is I want to thank my colleagues for your support over over this week on the passing of my mother. I'm really, really gratified by the outgoing of, that broad support, outpouring of support that I've received, of condolences. My family and I greatly appreciate it, and thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Again, condolences, of course, and thank you for your thoughts on the issue at hand. Appreciate that very much. Any other legislators at this time? Okay, why don't we stand for a motion of silence in memory of those we are recognizing their passing. Call on Majority Leader Borgia for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn to return to our next on our next scheduled board meeting, which is March 24th, 2014 at 7 p.m.
Short roll call, please.
Ms. Borgia?
Yes.
Mr. Testa? Mr. Mazzano, I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you.